So I was online and I saw a few sites where people were asking why their ads weren't converting. And there's a few different reasons why that would happen. But first of all, I think people aren't understanding the nature of the platforms they're using and their capabilities and what they're best at. So you have to understand strategically as the business owner what kind of leads you're trying to attract and which platform is best for that, along with which options within the platform are best for that. In terms of campaign types and settings and features. So that's why it's very important for you to talk with your ads manager about your specific goals, not generic goals, your specific goals, your specific ideal customer profile, and get as detailed about who you're trying to reach and how you're trying to reach them as possible. Because different businesses are really suited for different options, different settings. It's not a one size fits all thing with ads. The second thing is you got to understand your local competition, your local competitive environment, right? Are you a small dog in a big city with big competitors that have huge advertising budgets? If so, you're going to have a different kind of outlook on the expectations from your ads than someone else, right? So you have to be reasonable in what you're expecting based on who you are, your brand recognition, your budget, and the sophistication and size of your competitors, right? So if you're a one-man show and you're up against a team, right, a huge team that's been in town 50 years and they have millions of dollars in business and repeat customers, and you're just not going to have the same outcome. And this is why it's so important that I don't think business owners should be running ads solo unless you have a very strong foundation and a lot of cash to burn, because you're basically paying to learn. So if you don't have like natural talent, natural gifts that make ads in your set of skills, you're either going to hire someone who does well at ads, or you're going to pay someone to teach you, so that you'll pay less in learning from an expert than you will in testing things on the platform. You at least want to have a base level of knowledge, and that includes tracking, right? It's probably it's highly unlikely that a typical business owner will be able to set up their tracking correctly for ads platform. Even marketers and advertisers, a lot of them can't do it. So that's the number 2 reason why your ads aren't working. Number 3, right? Let's say you have proper tracking, proper education, proper campaign settings and options and features selected. There's also the fact that these platforms themselves have suggestions and default options and settings that aren't necessarily good for you. And that's something you wouldn't know unless you've tested it, or you've been in the platform long enough to know, or you've happened to pick up some tips here and there. But there's some default settings in these platforms that are just not good for you as a business owner. You wouldn't know that. So you got to remember that essentially what you're doing with ads is you're allocating capital to your highest potential profit at the lowest possible cost, right? To get the minimum amount of reach that you want to get, the minimum amount of leads and sales and conversions you want. So it's coming down to, where do you get the biggest bang for your buck? And that's not something you're gonna, there's no, unfortunately, there's no one place I know of that is gonna give you all this information in a way that's like easily digestible, consumable, spoon-fed, and in one comprehensive package, right? Like, it's this information, even for me, when I'm learning about things, it's all spread out, right? It's all over the place. You're kind of just searching, and testing and trying as you go. But if you're not mathematically and analytically inclined, with lots of experience in these platforms, you're going to spend a lot of money doing it wrong. So that's the third thing, is the platforms themselves can be misleading as to what's best for you. And so it's better for you to pay someone who has already learned the ropes and paid the cost to do it right, than to start all over from scratch. And now you got to put your money and your time and your potential weaknesses, right, that make you not fit on the analytical side, on the line, and potentially waste yourself thousands of dollars. Because I know people who wasted that. I know people who wasted tens of thousands of dollars when they could have just got it done right the first time. But this idea, what I don't like is the idea that anybody can do anything equally well. Are you technically capable of doing anything as a human being? Yes. If you live long enough, you will eventually learn enough to do something at a basic level. That's true. But are you talented? Are you top 10%? 1%? Probably not. Why? Because the time it took you to be good at whatever it is you do already, you would probably need that and more to become equally as good at something else that you're not inclined for, that you don't have advantages in, that you're not set up for. So it takes a little bit of humility for people to accept that they can't be Michael Jordan at everything. Michael Jordan is only Michael Jordan in basketball. We saw how he looked in baseball. So that's the thing. You have to have a certain amount of background knowledge, of context, right, in order to really be competent enough that you become as profitable as you can be with ads. The other reason, let's say you have tracking, you have correct campaign selection, correct settings, you know which default options to ignore and which ones to keep, right? Everything's technically set up. The fourth thing that people often forget is that your advertising environment changes. Your competitors change their strategies. They react to your strategy. The market changes, demand changes, the economy changes, your customer changes, preferences change. So it's not like it's something you can set and forget and close your eyes and go to sleep and go on vacation and be confident that it's going to look just as good as it did this time next week or tomorrow or next month or next year or whatever. You have to constantly be adapting to the changes that's going on in your market, right? In your your competitive advertising environment. So that means you need to have a level of competitive intelligence, a level of forecasting, a level of economic awareness. What's happening with the economy? What's happening to the consumer? What's happening in your industry? What's happening with technology? International effects, business changes, whatever it is, you have to keep current, right? You have to do what's going to be effective today. What if what was working yesterday may not work today? So that's also an issue. And this is why when I lay it out like this, you understand exactly why it would be ridiculous to think you can run a business and master something like this, right? Because now you're saying I can master two different things at once. That's very rare. Right. And in most cases, when someone is doing well in two different things, it means they hired a specialist. Right. So I would just advise people to be humble and realize that it takes a lot more than you think. It's not just clicking buttons and clicking toggles and choosing options. If that was the case, everybody would be rich and everybody would be killing it. I seen something from Neil Patel. It's some crazy percentage of people are not profitable with Google ads. And there's no wonder why, because it takes an entire education, right? Don't expect to know what I know when you've worked less than a year full time trying to figure it out. Put it like that, right? Because that's what it took me just to get competent. And I was focused on just that. You're doing your business and everything else, right? And you have multiple different responsibilities. You're not just a business owner. Maybe you're a parent or you're taking care of whatever other issues. So if you want to be at that level and you have a do-it-yourself mentality and that kind of spirit, be prepared to invest and being taught by someone who knows and who does it professionally. That's the bare minimum. Trying to figure out these platforms on your own, it's a nightmare. It really is. I mean, you would have to be extremely resourceful, extremely vigilant, and studious to get to that level. You would be in the top 1% for sure if you're that kind of person. I'm not saying it's impossible. If you push yourself hard enough, you can do anything in theory. But the reality is most of people are about average. And the outliers, well, they're just outliers. That doesn't factor in what most people should do. So if you're like most people, this is why your ads aren't converting. The other issue is a lot of people, I've run into this with some clients, a lot of people just don't have good offers. What do? I'm a plumber. Okay, there's hundreds of plumbers in your city. What makes you special? I don't know. Well, if you don't know, how do you expect the ad manager to communicate your value in an ad? How do you expect your clients, your potential customers, to pick up on why they should work with you over anyone else just because your ad showed up? No. You got to have something. You got to figure out what your advantage is. But the problem is, again, people are greedy and people lack humility. Oh, I can do anything. I'm a one-stop shop. If you really were the one-stop shop, you would be probably well known because you'd be like the Walmart of your industry. I say it reflects lazy thinking that you haven't even thought through for yourself why someone should buy from you. So now you're putting the labor on the advertiser and the customer, right? You figure out why you should work with me. That's not how advertising works. That's not how good marketing works. That's not good business, right? That's not good. It's not good communication, period. So you do the work and figure out what your angle is, what your advantage is, what do your customers like about you? Why do they work? Why do they work with you? Ask them. Ask for feedback. Ask them to take a survey. Why did you choose to work with us? I think at a minimum, when you get a new customer, you should ask them, where'd you find out about us? How'd you find out about us? And why you chose to work with us? Are you the low price option? Are you the high touch option? Are you very attentive? Are you 24/7? Are you conveniently located? Whatever it is, you need to find that out. Tell your advertiser so that they can communicate that in your ads and find more people who care about those particular advantages you have, right? So that's another thing. People have it's hard. A lot of people are not self-aware, so it's very hard for them to be reflective about these things. But you have to figure out what makes your offer attractive. What would make your offer attractive to the segment of the market that you're trying to convert into leads and sales, right? And that also goes into things like pricing. I had a client, he basically priced himself out of any sales. If the upfront price is unattractive because you're trying to price to cover all possibilities instead of pricing by the hour and letting people ease them way into your offer, you should price by the hour and say it typically takes this many hours, it's this much an hour. Then the customer can at least say, okay, well, I can expect about that. Okay, but maybe it'll be less. Maybe it'll be more. If it is, we'll go from there. But if you price so high out the gate to cover, I don't know, a full day's worth of labor when that's not even typical, well, then you've just burned your cash on an ad that had no chance of converting. Nobody wants to pay that amount, right, that you're offering. They'd rather go to someone who at least sounds like they could be cheaper, even if they're not better, right? Even if that's not their specialty, you've essentially made your offer look unattractive and unreasonable from the jump. And I get it because I took engineering in college, and I think a lot of people bad communicators communicate in ways that are most efficient for them instead of communicating ways that are most effective for their audience. So, for example, as an engineer, we don't really think it matters. I communicated the information. Why can't you just make a logical decision? But it doesn't work like that in real life. in real life, you have to ease your way into conversations. Can you imagine if a salesperson just jumped at someone and was like, hey, the price is this, it takes this long, are you ready to buy? With no kind of introduction, framing, positioning, um, objection handling, clarifications, all of this good stuff, all these elements of communication that real people who are not, literal brained engineers need in order to be persuaded into making a decision, right? So, a lot of business owners are like, here's the price, here's the service, here's my ad, you saw it, you should be buying. You should be buying right now. Why isn't anyone converting? And what you don't realize is you're just a bad communicator up against masters, up against pros, right? Who do this for a living. They do copywriting for a living, persuasion for a living. They're going to sweeten the deal. They're going to sweeten the offer. They're going to make the offer so good that a person can't say no. And here you are burning cash, right, on ads that are so bad that no one can say yes, right? You're making your ads and your offers so bad that the average person couldn't say yes, whether it be the description of your offer, the targeting, or the pricing. All of it sucks, including your landing page. You're sending people to your homepage. There's no specificity. All of these things are the reason why your ads don't convert. And here you are saying Google doesn't work, or Facebook ads don't work, or my advertiser sucks, my agency sucks. No, you as a business owner are bad at communicating. You're bad at being decisive and making decisions. You're bad at identifying even who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to give them, what the pricing should be to make all of these things attractive. You're bad at making decisions. You have low agency, right, yourself. So that will be reflected in your ad performance. It's all downstream of you. Your ability to understand your strategic environment, your local market, your advertising competitors, who you're up against. All of these things are factors. And I think it's the people who appreciate nuance the most and can recruit the people they need, the specialists, the advertising specialists, the copywriters, the landing page designers, the analytics people, the people who understand nuance and understand what the customer really wants the most. Those are the people who are going to win with ads, right? Especially with AI taking off and you don't need huge teams anymore necessarily. You can get creatives made, images, videos. People who respect testing framework, have the experimental mindset. Those are the people who are going to hire the people and pay them what they're worth, who can get the job done, who are qualified, who've gotten the results, right? Those are the people who aren't complaining about their ads not working because they've checked off all the boxes. They have all the required elements to make their ads successful. So that's my 2 cents on why so many people's ads don't work. And essentially the issue is you have to get the right message in front of the right person at the right time on the right platform, right? And if your ads aren't working, the issue is probably one of those 9 times out of 10. Now, until the day everyone's great at ads and we're just all so good that customers can't even tell who to pick, that's going to be your issue. But for now, that's not the case. Like I said, I don't remember the percentage, but most people suck at ads. And this video was about telling you why. So if you want to fix your ads and you have problems, you have a budget, you can get in contact with me. And if this video was useful for you, please like and subscribe and leave a comment below on what you thought was most helpful. All right, take care and have a good day. Good luck, guys.